everyone. Good Monday to you all. I hope you're having a wonderful Memorial Day if you're in the United States. It's been a long weekend for us, and that's always a good thing. We are coming to you live on the Light Gate from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana on the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Roku, Facebook, and YouTube. We are broadcast on radio around the world. And those of you who are on radio with us and cannot see this show exactly, we will, when we have guests with lots of pictures, and we do tonight, we will be describing them to you and giving you a full explanation of what we're looking at. I hope you all have a wonderful time with us tonight. We have a really wonderful guest, very interesting. So let's get going. Take it away, Preston.
Thank you, Dolly. Hello, everyone. Yes, you are watching The Light Gate. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Saffron, fully conscious UFO contactee, and the subject of my book, Symmetry. I want to start out by just wishing everyone a happy Memorial Day. Hope you're having a wonderful holiday. So thank you for joining us tonight. Yeah, I am excited about our show tonight. This is a guest you may not have heard of before, but you certainly should have, because he has some very interesting stories to tell, a lot of extensive knowledge on a variety of subjects, and I'm sure it's going to be an interesting show. Do you want to do one quick minute of shameless publicity? Because I did just get a book published. This is actually my first fictional book. This is not about UFOs per se, though there are aliens in it. This is science fiction. I love writing science fiction. I've written a bunch of stories, so I've collected 10 of my favorite. And yay, I got it into a book called Wild Speculation, a couple of award-winning stories. Almost all of these have been published in previous magazines, but now they're all together in a collection. So if you're into sci-fi, it would be awesome if you could check it out. So that's it, the shameless publicity section. Please forgive me. All right. Now, as you know, I do love to say hi to everyone in chat, because it is because of you we do this show. And I'm just so incredibly grateful that you join us each and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So let's see, who do we have here today? Brian Morgan, a familiar face. Hello, Brian. And yes, happy Memorial Day to everyone. And we also have Morgan, who's asking about live captions. I'm going to look into that. I think that's an important thing. So I'll see what I can do, because I know there's a feature on there. I don't know how to do it, but it shouldn't be that hard. But thank you for bringing that up. Hello, Michael. Hope you are doing well and your lovely family.
Hi, Kylie.
Hello, Renee. Look at all those emojis.
Oh, my goodness.
Glad to see you here, Renee. And Mountain Dan. Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Hello, Dawn. Thanks you for joining us. Yeah, we'll see if we can make it to that convention that you mentioned. But I don't know. I'm so darn busy these days. Catherine Fourfeathers. Hello.
Hello.
And my dear sweet sister-in-law, Christy, who actually did the art for my book. So thank you, Christy. She does the art for all my books,
Right.
Pretty much. So awesome to see you here, Christy. Hope you're doing well. And namaste. Wow. I truly appreciate your generosity. It helps so much. And your goodwill and kindness does not go unnoticed. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Warms my heart every single time I see you here and you give us a donation. So thank you. Okay, moving along. Janice Connett. Yes, this is
Hi,
a good
Janice.
time to remember all the people who work so hard to make sure we're safe. So yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Janice. And hello, Mary. And hello, Brooke to himself. Aliens have a weird relationship with the UK. Okay, we'll ask Simon about that. Mostly, they just like to provoke researchers. They do. I swear, every time I leave town, someone I know has an encounter where I lived. They're very funny that way. I think it's their twisted sense of humor. Okay, Fun Talks TV says hello all the way from Poland, 3 a.m.
Dzień dobry, jak się masz? Yeah.
Dzień dobry, jak się masz. Got it.
Dzień dobry, jak się masz? Yeah.
I gave it a try.
Yeah.
Hello, Maria. And who else we got here? I better get started before I get in trouble. Louise. And
Hi, Louise. Love you.
Fragtal, greetings. And Jacques Dion. Hello. Tennessee, Kentucky, Bigfoot. Awesome.
Yay.
Chris Teen. Yeah, I said I still get nervous. I always get nervous 3-5 minutes before the show after, 35-40 years. But now that I'm here, I'm fine, so mostly. But thank you, Christine. We do have fun. Oh, so nice. You always do great. Thank you so much. Hello, Susan. Glad to see you here. And Ruth Kleiber. And, ooh, that's an interesting name. Rory Johnston. I think I got that right. I knew a guy named Rory from England. That's not how he spelled it. But always in England. Awesome. And Tim Houston. And Just Insane. Oh, you're Mere Nuisance. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. You are so lovely on my YouTube channel. I can't thank you enough for all the support and kind words you give. So thank you. Derek Mulligan from Dublin, Ireland. We're absolutely huge in Ireland. Oh, wow. That is very cool. Octopus with No Friends and Mr. B Truth Seekers and Aussie Jen and Alien Believers and Julian. Oh, gosh, we have a nice big crowd today. Julian and Central Wisconsin and J.R. Amadeus Schiffer. Oreo 63. This channel rocks. Thank you. And now I'm about to get in trouble because we're already 6 minutes in. Human Data, Balking Ocean Podcast, Flubber Lane, Mama Sally, I promise. Scarlet Fire. Got your tinfoil cap on. Awesome. Rebecca and Coconut Lock. And okay, I better get started. Sukwai, 29K, just made it. All right. Deep breath. Okay, our guest tonight. Oh, I'm excited, you guys. Let me pull up his bio. And it's not a terribly long bio, so I'll get through it pretty quick. But tonight, we're honored and delighted to welcome Simon Domville-Musters. And he is an experiencer, a researcher, and a podcaster he has a YouTube channel called The Ranting Revolutionary. You can see links in the show notes. We've got a lot of interesting topics we're going to be talking about tonight. UFOs, the extraterrestrial presence, monoliths and ley lines, and what did I already say? Monuments? Stone. What was that word I used? Oh, well.
Stone monuments. Or no. Something. Ancient?
Right. Ancient stone monuments. Things like Stonehenge and the pyramids and Gobekli Tepe. All right, that's a mouthful. At any rate, let me tell you a little bit about Simon. He resides in the UK. He has experienced some really interesting UFO encounters, and he is working hard to research and educate people about the extraterrestrial on our planet and the UFO cover-up and other related topics. And as Simon says, my interest is communicating and learning from ET. The other priority is saving us from the New World Order totalitarianism that is being rammed down every orifice possible. Isn't that the truth? And then intravenously. Finally, democracy in the purest conception of the term for which Socrates perished, as PR had not been conceived in his time despite being descendants of Atlantis. So democracy is majority rule, but with respect for the fundamental rights of minorities, and we are all minorities in one form or another. So yeah, he's got this amazing YouTube channel starting out called The Ranting Revolutionary. Check it out. Some really interesting stuff on there. But let's just bring up our guest before I do all of the talking here.
Hi, Simon. Welcome to
Simon.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
So tell us, what time is it there?
It's now 2:18.
First of all, thank you for staying up. It's rare we can get a guest all the way from England because of the time difference. So
Right.
that's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, it's a great pleasure to be here. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, the
I really enjoy your
Love you.
work as well. And I've been watching masses of Preston's podcasts, and I've got the book in electronic form, Symmetry, which I am definitely going to get finished reading by the end of June. But the best laid plans of mice and men.
Yep, understood. Yeah.
Gang after Glay. Yep. Well, we're hoping to get that in audio very soon. It's being worked on right now.
It's being read now. Yeah. So,
We actually auditioned a bunch of people and found someone who's really good. I wish I could do it myself. I just don't have the studio, and I've got chickens clucking in the background and a giant Great Dane who's going to be saying hi any second.
Oh.
But she's always welcome on the show. She comes right when we're finishing up. She's psychic. She knows. Not kidding. I mean, she really is. Okay. Well, where to start? As I mentioned, or Dolly mentioned before the show, I do always like to start with the guest's childhood and have they had experiences as a very young person, their pathway towards where they got to today, becoming a researcher in these very interesting and controversial topics. So yeah, how did it all roll out for you, Simon?
Not when I was very young, that I know of. So my first experience was really good. I was 15 at the time, and my mother was present. My brother and sister and our next door neighbors, Charles and Peter, were present. And we have multiple witnesses, not only with policemen, air traffic control civil from Gatwick Airport, which is the fourth largest airport in the world. Also, the military radar confirmed it. And there were so many witnesses that the two local papers, who were independent not only of one another, but independent of the large newspaper groups, ran the story for 2 days without being censored. So the route that E.T. took in his wonderful, magnificent craft, which was straight out of Close Encounters, it really was cathedral-like, absolutely enormous, multicolored. We had a large garden at the time with some beautiful cedar trees, and we were quite scared that it would burn the cedar trees, but no heat came up it, thank goodness. And it was so near us that one of the things that did come off it was little gold sparks, which you could actually hear as well. And it was like graceful for about 15 out of 20 frames, and then the last 5 frames it would sort of do a limp or a jump rather ungracefully, and then it would go back to being graceful again. So it was quite funny, and we watched that for about 10 good minutes as it strolled along over our garden, and it was absolutely wonderful. Really, really nice. Very nice experience. And of course, everybody in the village saw it, and everybody in town saw it, unless they were inside and no one said, come outside and have a look at this. Everybody saw it. So multiple witnesses everywhere. Absolutely undeniable.
Well, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind at the time? Like, what were you thinking this was?
I was thinking, my God, this is going to change everything. And I was waiting for confirmation from my mother, who just remained stoically silent, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But yes, very, very, very not frightening, but I was apprehensive as well. I mean, it was out of the blue, no notice, no, next week, look at the sky, there might be something interesting, or nothing like that. It was just boom in your face, and you had to handle it. So it was, but honestly, no one felt anything negative afterwards. It was wonderful.
Oh, that's good. Did you talk about it afterwards?
Oh yes, all of us did. Yes.
I would imagine.
And it was what was I think the thing was it was very, very beautiful. All those colors going along the structure in columns, and that they were changing all the time as it was moving. And
Yes.
it was absolutely beautiful. There's no way to describe it. It was like a giant Christmas tree in terms of the light show. Absolutely wonderful.
Wow. Now, Albowitch Wiggler is saying, were you able to see any occupants? So,
No, we did look. We didn't see any occupants, sadly. And nor did we receive any telepathic messages, but definitely a very positive feeling as it was going by and after it had gone. The first few moments as we were watching it, it was like, my God, is it going to crash? But no, it just gently went along its way.
How big was it, do you think?
Cathedral-like. Definitely something you could compare to the size of Notre Dame.
Wow.
Nice.
What year was this when you were 15?
Must have been about 78 or 79. 78, I think. 78.
Okay.
All right. UFOs were just starting to get into the media at that time.
Yeah.
All
yes,
right.
well, it was reported locally. It didn't make the local radio. It didn't make local TV. It definitely didn't make national radio or national TV. We were very surprised because the confirmation from the police, the air traffic control, both military and civil, we would thought that it would have been on at least local TV and local radio, but it didn't even get that far. But at least the printed word did get out, which was a good thing. And they were allowed to run the story for 2 days, which is quite amazing.
That is, yeah, it rarely makes it to the mainstream news. Local
That's
paper,
right.
they'll do it. Okay, now Dr. C. Mack is asking, what part of England was this in?
This was in East Grinstead in West Sussex.
Oh, all right. And Fun Talks TV is asking, was it wobbling?
No, it was quite stable. Wasn't wobbling. There wasn't any vibrations. And there wasn't a low humming sound like a generator or anything like that. But there were, as I said, these sparks coming off, and they were gold colored, and you could hear the little snappy sound.
Right. Exactly.
This was really close to you too, huh?
Yeah. And we were, fortunately, my mother and I were on a balcony. We were even nearer as it was floating across the garden. So, yeah.
No. Well, BW raises a question, which I think I know. I mean, I've got my opinions about it. They wanted to be seen.
I think
Yes. Absolutely.
definitely that there is a disclosure program going on, all of ET's doing. And this is one of the things one of the reasons why I like Preston so much, is that it's quite clear that everyday people everywhere in the world are being contacted. I'd love to know if there was a common denominator between experiencers and those who've had conversations and those who haven't, and so on. That would be quite fascinating. But it's quite clear that ET's got his own disclosure program, as well as other things going on as well.
Right.
Yeah, I have found some common denominators. The simple, most obvious one is people who look outside or are outside.
Yes.
Which is, duh. But it's people are like, why do I never see a UFO? Well, you could be in the office all day. And you're watching TV all day.
Yeah.
If you go outside, your chances are much greater. And we have a lot of cases of children who are witnesses, and truck drivers, and night watchmen, police officers, park rangers, people whose job puts them outside.
Yeah.
But really, and I've noticed this, anyone and everyone can see it.
I have a question for you. Were you in a rural area or a small city area?
It was a rural area.
Rural, okay.
Yeah. But no cattle went missing, no horses went missing, no sheep went missing, no mutilations, nothing like that. And we would have known about it because if your dog goes into a farmer's field in England, especially if it's lambing time, then you rights to just get the gun out and shoot the animal. So our garden gave on to a farm field and the farmers lived just around the corner from us, we would have known immediately had any animals been damaged or anything.
Okay, I'm also curious, were there any high tension trunk line wires in your villages at all?
No.
None.
No.
Well, they were really interested in really showing that. Yeah.
Near the airport, there would have been, because there's a motorway and they put the high tension wires parallel to the motorway, and that wasn't too far from us. And they'd seen from the airport the craft. So
did it go toward the airport or away from the airport?
it was going away from the airport. But what you have to understand about East Grinstead in Sussex is it's on the ley lines.
Right.
It's also got 40 religious groups there. The Mormons, the Moonies, the Church of Scientology. The list just goes on and on and on, right? So, but it is a very old sacred area. Font Hill, which is near Saint Hill, these are all old watering sites, sources of pure water. These are all places from which you can observe the stars on a clear night very nicely. And the nearest town was a market town called East Grinstead, which was still quite small when I was there. And just as I was leaving, there were huge building programs going on and taking the overflow from London. And so it's much larger now.
Okay.
It's just moving very leisurely, you said.
Oh, yeah, not in a rush at all.
Huh. Okay, now I know you probably already said this. What size was it?
Cathedral, like about the size of Notre Dame.
And what was the shape?
The shape was round on the bottom, very nice, big round base, and then towering upwards in various columns, going a conical, but column by column by column, and the colors changing all the time and rotating as it was moving.
Wow.
Right.
All right. Now here's another good question. Thanks, guys, for all these questions. Boy, we have hardly gotten started. Me, Mike, is asking, how did it affect your life, your way of thinking?
It did. It was very positive because the first thing is you realize there's another paradigm. The second thing you realize is there's another technology. Third thing you realize is they're definitely way ahead of us if they can get from just one end of the galaxy to the other, and we are on the periphery of our galaxy. If you then say they came from another galaxy, etc., then they're definitely not stopping off at Shellmex to fill up, right? One of during my research, one of the quotes that stays in my mind is a U.S. general being informed of their presence, and his first reaction is, "That's one hell of a supply line." Yeah.
All right. Rory Johnson, did you have any missing time?
No one had any missing time, either in my personal entourage or the kids at school, because there was no conversation taking place. There was no one who was taken aboard. It literally was just saying hi, having a look, and having a nice stroll in the country.
Well, shout out to W. Decker. Thanks for the super chat, for the kind words. Always appreciated. And another shout out to me, Mike. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Okay.
Now, I have a question. How soon was it after this experience? Was it before you had another one? I mean, what did you do directly after that? I mean, how did it engage you in trying to figure things out?
Well, like most kids, you have to do your homework and you have your chores to do. So we had a nice conversation at the meal table, and then it was business as usual. And then obviously when we went to bed, it was trotting through our heads. And my next experience was 20 years later, when I was in Calais, which is not far from a nuclear power station just down the road in Dunkirk. ET then sent me a telepathic message saying, we're coming to have a look. And I said, well, you're not bloody well doing anything exploratory and invasive. And if you do, you might win physically, but mentally, I'll make sure you take a good bashing. And he said, just relax. We're going to come in, scan you, and scan your place, and then we're going. And he said, go to the your bedroom window, which I did. And there was a very nice silver craft the size of 2 station wagons, about 100 yards away from me and about 60 feet up in the air. And he just said, go to the living room. I went to the living room. He flashed in, and it was like strip lights that were rotating very, very rapidly, very bright, non-invasive, absolutely no heat, nothing, little bits of blue, white light coming off. He stayed for about 30 seconds. I was standing literally 1 yard from him, no heat. Off he went. I say he because it was completely without any gender whatsoever, but not mechanical. It was sentient. And it said, okay, now go to the kitchen window. And I'm moving to go to the kitchen window, and it flashes in front of me, goes out of my kitchen window and straight into the craft that's waiting for him the other side. And that's it. I'm looking at this. I wave goodbye nicely, and I say, well, thanks for the conversation. I mean, I feel anticlimax. I mean, I wanted the secret.
Wow, Simon. Okay, now wait, let's back up. It's like, how old were you? When was this?
This was the second experience when I was in Calais, and I must have been about 30 or 40, round about there. No, 35 to 40, round about there, yeah.
Wow. Okay, and so the first message was what? It said, go to the window?
Go to the window, go to your bedroom window.
No, was that in English, or was that?
Yes, it was in English in my head, and I was questioning, is this me? And it said, just go to the kitchen, go to the bedroom window. And off I went, and there was this craft there, yeah.
Huh,
And it was gold colored. It was very nice, classic shape, lovely, you know, definitely straight out of the showroom, just for me, you know. And I'm saying to it, look, you're not doing anything to me physically. I'm not having it. And they're saying, just keep calm, all right? We're just going to scan, and then we're going. And I said, look, I have training mentally. If you think you may win physically, but mentally, I'll give you a bashing, right? I don't care. I'm not having it, right? And they said, look, you just relax, go to your bedroom window. The craft is there. It sees me. It says, right, now go to your living room, go to my living room. And I'm standing by the sideboard. It comes in, it spins, all these white tubes spinning, giving off very nice colored blue whitish light. No heat whatsoever, no electrical discharge, nothing whatsoever. It says, okay, now go to the kitchen window. I go to the kitchen window. It overtakes me, goes out of the kitchen window, goes straight to the craft. I'm rather nonplussed because we haven't had a conversation, so I wave and say thank you for the conversation. You know, I mean, I would have liked to have done an interview like this. You know?
Wow, that's amazing.
How tall was he?
It was about he didn't actually touch the floor, so he would have been about 1 meter in
3
height.
feet. Okay.
Yeah, about 1 meter, 3 feet.
Was he a classic gray?
No, he was literally twirling light tubes. That's the best way I can describe it.
Okay.
Rotating light tubes. He was not a little gray. He was definitely sentient. And he had his whatever he had with him to scan. He did his scan. I didn't feel a thing. Didn't hurt me. No traces whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. No visiting card. I would have liked a souvenir, you know.
Yeah.
Was there anyone else in the house?
No, it was just I was alone at the time. No.
Now, let me backtrack you for a minute. Have you ever had any dreams about a UFO or ET in your lifetime? Or have you ever woken up from feeling like, you know, something was going on around you, but you're not sure what it was? Anything like that? any missing time at all in those 20 years?
Not that I'm aware of. No, not that I'm aware of.
I'd like to break this to you calmly, okay?
Yeah.
When you threaten ET and say, I will hurt you,
Yeah.
and you're not touching me, they will go out of their way not to give you any reason to do that. And they will cut short, they will do what they're going to do, and then they will leave courteously, but they will not have any, they won't talk to you at that point because there's no point, because they become aware of the fact that you are combative.
Yeah.
And it dawns on me while you're telling this that you may have had prior experiences with them where you were combative. And that's what you got. You didn't get a gray, you got a mechanism that is intelligent. Okay. It's not a real physical entity, it's a mechanism. And I'm just curious, do you still feel that way? Would you welcome them showing up now?
On condition that it was understood that no harm would come to me, and they're not going to do anything I don't want to. But I don't, don't get the impression that the guy who saw me in my flat in Paris, in Calais, that he was a device. I think he was sort of like ectoplasm manifesting itself without necessarily a physical body with him, and he just had to do his scan, and that was it. And he was around long enough for me to at least transmit the thought, well, next time let's have a chat, you know.
That's amazing. Have you had any more experiences other than that?
Yeah, 2 in Bulgaria, and my ex-wife. Wait, before we get to that, there was a question from somebody which was kind of funny. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. They're asking, well, I remember what it was. Did the voice have an English accent?
No, accentless, but clear and distinct.
Oh, all right. And did you check to see if there was missing time? I'm curious.
Didn't even occur to me. It didn't occur to me at all because it happened in real time. There was a beginning, a middle, and an end. And no, what did I do? I lit a cigarette and thought, well, conversation would have been nice.
And did you tell anyone about it?
I asked my next door neighbor, with whom I got on well, did he see the craft? And he said yes. And that was enough for me. That was cool. And I then said, was it in any of the papers or on the radio? Now, he would know about the papers because he had the newsagents. He ran the newsagents next door. And the radio in his shop was on all the time. So he would have heard it had it been on the radio. And he said, no, but don't expect it to be either. And I said, no, I was just, curious. So, yes, I did have a witness to that, which is nice.
So did he see the same thing? No.
I asked him what it looked like and what color it was. And he confirmed without me having to say, was it gold or was it this color or that color? He told me the exact shape. He told me the color. He said he saw it coming from over his garden, over his roof, and then out in front of our row of houses, at the crossroads, above the crossroads, where my fellow hopped in after visiting me.
That's so awesome that you had another witness. I wonder if they did that intentionally. Fun Talks TV has a funny comment. It's kind of weird to hear ETs having this average convo with ordinary people saying, get your ass to the window.
That's why I said, that's exactly why I said what I said. He's probably had prior and he doesn't remember.
I'm getting that impression too, Simon.
They knew exactly how to get your attention and kick themselves.
When you have that close of an encounter, it means you're a contactee. I mean, hands down.
It could be, but I don't remember it.
Nothing unusual as a little kid? No.
But
Anything?
I was hyperactive as a child, and I was also ambidextrous. Now, fortunately, I got sent to French school, so they were very strict. And good thing there was that they kept me quite busy. But no, I haven't had nightmares where little grey guys have come into my bedroom, which doesn't mean that they haven't, but I certainly can't remember it. And there was certainly no physical evidence like bruising or, I mean, I was always falling over and getting grazed anyway, as most kids do when they're, between the toddlers to the age of about 10 or 11. Then their coordination gets a bit better.
I'm curious, what do you do for a living? How do you make your money?
I used to be an international sales and marketing specialist, and because of my health, I've had to stop working. And so this is why I have my channel, and I can do my research, and I can really enjoy myself. Mind you, I enjoyed my job as well. I went all over the world and in very good conditions, and thoroughly enjoyed what I did as well. So, but this is why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because my health won't allow me to travel all over the place and do weird and wonderful hours and get up at 5 a.m. and drive X miles to the middle of nowhere.
All right. So going back still to when you were a kid, because I'm like a dog with a bone sometimes.
Yeah.
Have you had any paranormal experiences like precognition or?
Oh yes, lots of precognition. Lots of precognition. Very good with animals. Telepathic experiences with other human beings. Déjà vu, lots, especially in Belgium and Paris and France and Poland. When I went to Poland, that was very familiar to me as well. So I do know that I have had several reincarnations.
Aha.
I thought so. This is something that's very common among contactees.
Right.
So, all right. Very interesting. So what was the next experience you had?
Oh, right. So I was married to a Bulgarian lady, and we were living in Sofia, Bulgaria.
Wow.
Nice little apartment with a nice balcony. And we had a nice garden to play with the dog in, which was surrounded by a fence. On the other side of that fence, there was a children's nursery school. And our balcony gave out onto the little side road that led to our building. And it was a quiet road. And so after supper, we'd have a glass of wine and a cigarette and have a nice time having a nice chat, especially a summer evening. Lovely. And I'm on the balcony and the dog is keeping me company. Madame's gone back to the kitchen and there's this really old-fashioned teardrop-shaped craft with 4, maybe 5 large portholes, gray-green in color, and it's the lighting, the ambient lighting it's autumn, and it's about 10 o'clock in the evening, so it's now quite dark, and you've just got street lighting. And there's no one in the portholes. So I say to Nina, have you got your phone to take a picture? Because I always leave my phone by my desk with my laptop. I don't go out on the balcony with it. And, so come with your phone quickly. And she saw it. And I waved and it ran off. I was really annoyed.
Oh my goodness.
They are a bit camera shy, it appears.
Yes, yeah. Now, but at least once again I had a witness. And then
how close was this to you?
no, they weren't very far away at all. Maybe 60 feet.
Hmm.
No radiation, no heat, no exhaust, no sound. And I was looking around as it arrived to see if someone was projecting something or this was a hologram, because when you read Jacques Vallée, you know that they do have a program to stage a false invasion, and he does have a leaked CIA document dating from 1985 about this. And I was wondering if perhaps this was a practice run, and that whilst I trust my own eyes with glasses, I just wanted to make sure there was no third party enjoying a joke.
You said it was spade shaped?
It was teardrop shaped.
Teardrop, okay. 4 windows, 4 ports.
Four or five, yeah, large ones.
Okay.
By large, I mean think of the size of a standard size car wheel. So large enough to see the silhouette of someone very easily, especially at 60 feet.
Okay, were they round ports or?
Yes, round. They weren't oval, round and quite large. And I couldn't help but think, is this being projected? Mainly because it wasn't quite as smooth as I'd expected. It wasn't as though it had rivets, but it had a mechanical sort of feeling about it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And that's why I was checking to see if it was being projected from somewhere. And opposite us lived a Swiss gentleman who had a telescope and who was an amateur astronomer. And his apartment did not in any way lend itself to him being able to project an image from his apartment down so that it would be opposite me. He wasn't in a geographic position to do that.
Yeah. Well, the graphics need more than one point of imaging, okay? 3 at least, minimum 3. So they like to do stuff near mountains or walls or the end of streets where they can use telephone poles and stuff like that. I mean, it's a big deal. Most of the old laser imaging, holographics, only had one, and it used an array. In other words, the light was constantly moving like this, and it was so easy to tell this is a hologram, a cheap one. But now they can make them look solid and 3D, and but they need at least 3 projectors to do that. And so you don't, and it has to be. They can almost do it in broad daylight as well with these things. And when you said that it moves funny, I'm curious about that because I'm trying to make up my mind what this is, because you're not describing a classic UFO to me. What you are describing is a back engineered UFO, a UAP.
My first impression was it looks a bit too Jules Verne.
Yeah.
It just felt Jules Verne as well.
This was in the 80s?
This was 2000 and no, okay. This was recent. This was like 2018 2020 2019 at the very earliest, probably about 2020.
Yeah,
right?
you probably got to see it back engineered at that
How low to the ground was it?
Only 3 stories up. It was just opposite us. We were on the 4th floor, so it was about four floors up, 60 feet away, and I mean, the fact that the portholes were unmanned, despite the fact that there was vague light in there,
they might be opaque,
Yeah, but it just felt like it was built with rivets, even though I didn't see the rivets or the nuts or the bolts. I just got, this was my gut feeling.
Right.
The color was, as I say, greenish gray. And
see, that was my tip-off, just so you know. The green, no ET craft is green. That's definitely back engineering.
Yeah, that's what my impression was, that it was definitely not kosher, whatever it was. Right. And I honestly thought that it was being projected by third parties. That said, when I waved and my wife came out, and she was just bringing the camera up to her face so she could picture, and I waved, thinking that maybe someone will come and wave back. Off it goes.
Oh, yeah.
was someone practicing and did not expect to be seen.
Right.
That
was
was
it a rural area or urban?
no downtown Sofia.
All right. Wow.
I mean, yeah,
Pretty interesting either way.
yeah.
All right. So that's 3 major encounters.
Yeah, and the fourth and last is once again in Sofia, 2020, in winter, round about Christmas time, either just before or just after. And once again, Doggy and I are outside having our after dinner cigarette. And I'm wrapped up because it's now winter, and I'm not hanging around outside. I'm smoking my cigarette, having a quick sip of wine, and then going back in. And there's this light show, and it's loads of little lights spiraling around, very Fibonacci sequence, golden ratio, right, on the wall opposite our building. And I immediately call Nina because I know I haven't got my phone with me. So I call Nina and say, get your phone quick. And she saw these little lights whizzing along, and she's trying to get a picture. And I'm looking at them, and the dog is even looking at them. And she did get a picture of them, and off they went. So she doesn't have the picture. Nina has the picture. I haven't got it with me.
Oh.
But she does have the picture.
And were these white lights?
These lovely little white lights. Yeah. Lovely little white lights. Yeah. So that could have been projected as well. I did have a good look around, and we couldn't see or hear or in any way sense from what we could see. But remember, it was in winter, it was dark. So if someone was doing some covert ops, they could easily be in a black vehicle, wearing their black coat, holding their black projector, and we wouldn't really,
Very interesting. So is there anything in Sofia that would draw ETs or government? Or
well, you've got an airport, and you do have now you see Bulgaria's got lots of water, and it's almost like the European version of Canada. They should be on hydroelectric. There's no excuse for it. They are actually using a small nuclear power generator in Sofia, and they do have outdated coal burning and rubbish burning power generators with a small nuclear one. But apart from the nuclear power generator, they haven't got any weapons worth speaking of, that would attract ET's attention. But a small nuclear power generator, yes.
Wow. So would that be the extent of your UFO experiences?
That is the full extent of my UFO experiences. Fortunately for me, my mother was a great fan of Stonehenge. So I've been to lots of standing circles all over the southwest of England, in Wiltshire and Hampshire, and where all the stone circles are. And that's been of tremendous value to me in my research as well. And just knowing and having seen them and been there and touched them, it's all very real. And when you start researching it and you come across geniuses like Carl Monk, who's worked out the mathematics and can link Stonehenge to the pyramids, to the South American monuments, plus other megalithic and Neolithic structures, plus the face on Mars, plus the pyramid on Mars, and that they're working on a slightly different mathematical model than us, but they've got alternative pi, which isn't complicated. They've worked. They were using the royal cubit, which is basically 272. You can use our version of pi, and you can also square our pi. You can cube our pi, and you have to have a little notion of what a vector is, what a radius is, that sort of thing, and you can actually follow Mr. Monk, Carl Monk. It's absolutely fascinating, and you see how it's all tied in, and you can also see that it's very clear that the Egyptians had nothing to do with building the pyramids or the Sphinx, and it certainly wasn't primitive people who built Göbekli Tepe either. And Göbekli Tepe is surrounded by 13 other settlements.
Actually, there are 18. 18, not 13, 18.
Yeah.
18. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to
And
dive into.
They're all related to one another. Yeah.
I want to dive into that in the second half of the show and some of your other paranormal experiences. But before we do that, I'm curious, have you ever asked anyone in your family, your parents or grandparents or aunts, uncles or children or anyone, have they had any UFO experiences?
My grandmother was very good at reading tea leaves and was quite psychic from my mother's side. But no, she didn't have any UFO experiences. And I think people do see what they're ready to see. And a UFO could have been picking apples off an apple tree in the garden, and she wouldn't have realized it was a ET. And she would have had a nice chat. No, not a problem.
All right. Well, now it's time to take a quick station ID break, but I want to dive into some of these other subjects real soon.
Okay.
Let me pull up this banner here so that people can understand where we are being broadcasted. But I just wanted to let everyone know that you are watching The Light Gate. This is episode 57. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran, fully conscious contactee, subject of my book, Symmetry. We're speaking tonight with Simon Domville-Musters about his UFO experiences. That's what we've covered so far. 3-4 very interesting encounters, all the way back to age 15 when he had a very close-up sighting with his family of a UFO. An even more interesting encounter at age 30, was it?
Yeah.
With some, I'm not even exactly sure, some glowing humanoid of some kind.
Yeah.
Definitely a UFO, and other encounters. But I do want to let you know that we are streaming live on 107.7 FM radio from the beautiful city of New Orleans. Also at 105.3 FM. Also from New Orleans. The first is at the United Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7, and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. And also, we are streaming on other platforms like Roku. If you have Roku, check us out. YouTube, of course, and Facebook. We have another hour to go, so I'm pretty excited to dive into a bunch of these other topics. I know some of you have got a lot of interesting experiences and knowledge on these ancient monuments, and I still can't think of the word I'm trying to think of.
Megaliths or
Monolith. Megaliths, that's the word. Megalithic structures. Thank you. But I'm curious about the paranormal stuff because I find that equally fascinating as UFOs. And you've mentioned you've had experiences with telepathy. I want to hear about that. I want to hear about the precognition. I want to hear all of it. Ghosts? Have you had experiences with ghosts?
Yes, yeah. I must have been about 13 or 14. My mother had a friend who had a ghost follow her around, and he was in the form of a golden ball.
Wow.
He didn't mind showing himself in that form, and he was a bit of a voyeur and a bit curious and a bit nosy. But he wasn't harmful. He was sort of like very dependent upon her friend. But he wasn't harmful, and he didn't scare either myself or my brother or my sister. And when my mother's friend, left, because she was staying with us for a little while, Ghosty went with her, so we didn't have a problem there.
Well, wait. So you saw this directly yourself? What did it look like?
Yeah. I remember I was at the dining room table doing my homework, and he would be looking at my books, and he was opposite me the same way the laptop's opposite me now. And he understood if you spoke to him out loud or telepathically.
Amazing. So you could actually interact with it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You're so
I
English
thought
about this. You're just very
that
blasé. That's amazing.
It's like mediumship. You realize this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do now, but at the time it was like, get out of my head. Mind your own business. Yeah.
Was this a small little orb or large?
Yeah, small, twice the size of a tennis ball. Now, if you want something paranormal, here's something paranormal.
I do.
Speaking of tennis balls, since the French Revolution, the human brain has increased in size by 200 milliliters, which is approximately the size of a tennis ball. Now, that's all of a sudden a very rapid increase in brain size in a somewhat arbitrary manner, in that it doesn't coincide with a great amelioration in diet. It doesn't coincide with climate change. It doesn't coincide with breeding with another set of human beings who have that quality. So all of a sudden, in Europe, brain size suddenly increases by 200 milliliters. Now, that's very interesting as to why that happens spontaneously like that.
Well, it's kind of coinciding with the fact that longevity is also increasing.
Yes, but it didn't. Longevity started to increase when we started to ameliorate the diet, when there were better work laws, right? And that also the creation of a health service, and longevity, you could tie it with coincidentally with other things that can be measured, right? It's not spontaneous and it's not arbitrary. All of a sudden you have this increase in brain size, which appears to be somewhat spontaneous. At the time, the French Revolution was rather dangerous. You could lose your head quite easily.
Yes.
Well, that's very cool. So
what about that's somewhat paranormal? Someone like to explain that to me?
Yeah, I wouldn't even begin to know. ETs, I don't know.
There's a great historian, English historian called Theodore Zeldin. He's the only foreigner to be invited to commentate the French presidential elections. And he made a very good observation about technology and French cuisine. As you know, the French are madly in love with their food. And he said, in one of his books, he wrote 2 wonderful tomes on France. He said, he poses a question: what do you think improved French diet more than any other invention?
Cheese.
No, because cheese existed. Wine is nice, but no.
Escargot. I have no idea.
The locomotive, because it got fresh food all over the country.
There you go. That could be
that improved diet. That improved people's diet. So you could see increase in longevity, increase in health, because the food they were eating wasn't going off, it wasn't stale, it wasn't, rotting.
Can I tell you a secret medically?
Yeah.
Calcium feeds your brain. It also feeds your bones. And D3 is very important. And when women are pregnant who get enough calcium and D3, and then a couple other B vitamins thrown in, will have babies with bigger skulls. And that is probably the reason that it happened. And you just gave us the answer. It's supply, fresh air supply, because nutrients deteriorate over time. And the fresher the nutrients, the better they are for the human genome. So I'm not surprised about that. That would be a good precursor for understanding how it occurred. Yeah.
So, but the thing is that the locomotive came a lot later than the French Revolution.
Yeah, that's true. But people were eating better after the French Revolution. They weren't starving to death all the time. When they took over, they had better access to food. And that was a common denominator in France. They were being starved before that, and then boom, they were getting food because they took over. Think about that. So
All right, Simon, now I want to hear about telepathy. You mentioned you had some telepathic stuff. I remember one episode I had with my sister. I mean, I have it occasionally, but I was talking with my sister-in-law, and she was trying to think of a name. It came right into my head. Another time I was we were playing some game with the family, and my sister's like, I forget what it was, but I was supposed to guess the answer. My sister Victoria turns to me and she says, I'm going to beam it to you. And she goes, yeah. And this came right into my head, Clarksville 5, a music group. And I said it. It's like, oh my God, you heard me. So I have experienced it.
Good.
So,
I was being driven home by the parents of some friends of mine, and the mother was driving, and we'd just come past the reservoir, and we're driving up a very narrow country lane, and either side of the country lane were fields in which cows or sheep used to graze. There would be entrances in and out of the fields so that the tractors and even the livestock could go from one field to the other. And without seeing anything, without knowing anything, I just said to Jane, slow down, Jane. And she slowed down. And then out of this field came this really great tractor. And had she not slowed down, we would have crashed with it. So that was a nice bit of clairvoyance there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love it when that happens. It's like, wow, yeah. It's really thrilling.
Yeah. And they were very sensitive to that, and nothing was said, but it was understood. And lots of times I know what someone's going to say to me before they said it. That happens quite a lot. Which is good because it gives me time to give a nice, nice reply, and keep things sweet. I also know when someone is upset with me, and I don't know the person, but for some peculiar reason, I either remind them of someone or something. I just go up to them and say something pleasant and nice, and it sort of just puts them in the right mood with regard to me. But lots of times I've had people look at me as though I was a threat, which obviously I'm not.
Well, that's cool. Very interesting. Yeah. What about out-of-body experiences? Have you ever had that, astral projection?
Oh, yeah. When I was 11, I was cycling down with my friends coming back from school, and there's a very steep hill at a place called Vinyl's Cross on the way to West Hoathly. So anybody who knows that area will know what I'm talking about. And I fell off my bike as I was pedaling far too quickly, going downhill, and it was basically something called speed wobble. And I fell off the bike and was unconscious. And I thought I was still riding my bike, and then I looked down and I couldn't see my hands. I thought, what the hell's going on? What's happening? And I had this out-of-body experience. I thought, where is it? Where's the bike? Yeah, very disconcerting.
Wow, that's almost like a near-death experience.
What I want to know is, did you find your way back?
Instantly. And my mother was having a nap on the sofa, and she fell off the sofa, not when I fell off my bike, but when I realized that I had fallen off my bike.
Oh, wow.
It's funny. That is amazing.
Yeah.
That's truly amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of astral projection experiences. Not quite like that, but I did ram my bike into the wall of the house when the brakes went out.
Oh.
And got the wind knocked out of me, couldn't breathe, and lying there like, am I dead? I finally recovered. No one was there to, pull me up off the ground. I'll never forget that, but I did not go out of body. I felt like it. I wish I had, because boy, that hurt.
Yes. Yeah. Going out of body does save you a bit of pain.
It was a steep hill, and my brakes they were gone. Gosh, the terror that went through me. That's just an aside, but you reminded me of it. I hadn't thought of that in years. Wow.
Yeah, there's a thing about accidents and people leaving their bodies. I learned when I was younger that when people pass, in a tragic accident, oftentimes they've already left their body just before the accident. Your consciousness knows it's coming, might as well leave, and it does. And there are other people who remember the incident because they're still alive. And I have a feeling that you thought you were going to die when that happened, and you jumped out, and then it shook you, and you went back. I think your consciousness thought it was about to bite the big one, and that was it. And you just kept going.
Well, that reminds me of a study that was done with mountain climbers who had falls and survived a tremendous fall, and they said exactly that same thing. They left their body and bam, hit the ground. We're not in it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Your consciousness, it knows better than to experience that much trauma, Yeah. And it'll leave. And a lot of people talk about it, a lot of people. And I'm not surprised.
Right.
Well, any other paranormal things you can think of before we move on to some of the ancient monuments?
Picking the right numbers in a casino. I've done that a couple of times and won a few tidy sums.
Nice.
Picking the right numbers for a lottery ticket. I've done that a couple of times, and once again, it hasn't been millions, but it's been jolly useful. Those are definitely telepathic moments or paranormal moments where you just tune into whatever frequency it is and you get it right. And what's more, it's very interesting the amount involved, which clears up whatever's been bothering you, etc. And yeah, it's very interesting how those things work out.
Well, that makes me wonder, have you ever reached out to ET and perhaps that glowing being you saw to try to communicate or get more information?
Well, I made it clear that I would like to have had a conversation, so he can find me anytime, because apparently we all are recognizable by our vibrational frequency. So I'm sure he's got me on the radar somewhere. He can pop in anytime, and if I could have some notice, that would be nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you think? Should we move on to some of these megalithic monuments?
Yes, because they're quite fascinating. And they're on something called ley lines. Now, it was a Mr. Alfred Watkins back in 1920 who discovered these. And apparently this was a spiritual revelation to him. But he was quite right, because along these lines, you will find not only energy flows on the ground, but underground and overground. You will find religious monuments. You will find the standing stones. You will find churches. You will find sources of natural pure water. You will also find places from which it is very good to observe the astral and lunar movements on a clear night. So all these criteria. Then when you start to study Chinese wisdom, they have feng shui, and so do the Japanese. And it's exactly the same technology, and the Chinese even refined it to such a point that there are purple ley lines along which only emperors can be buried. Yes. So this is his revelations were quite correct, and the more we go into the mathematics of ley lines and the electromagnetic or the magnetosphere of planet Earth, ley lines confirm everything. They confirm the maths as discovered by Karl Monk when he does his linking of the megalithic monuments to the pyramids in Giza, to the pyramids in Central and South America, and the pyramids that you have in the States, which are covered up, and there's a law saying that because they're Indian burial mounds, which they're not, but because they are theoretically Indian burial mounds, no one can excavate. Right? So you've got to get that law changed as well.
Yeah.
And Indian people are very much in a position to insist that if they take charge of the excavation, they choose the archaeologists, they take responsibility for it, it's their heritage, they should be allowed to get on with it, right? Because there's a whole load of stuff to be discovered in those mounds. The Chinese have got 400 pyramids minimum.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
Have you ever read anything anywhere that explains that those alignments and the astronomical correlations to them
Yes.
are the key to understanding what they mean and why? And one of them is that this planet has a nasty habit of changing rapidly every 6,000 and every 12,000 years. One of them is called the water event, flood event. And the other one is where our planets change their polarity and we have huge problems with the sun going rogue on us. It goes into a super heavy ejection of, super flares and CMEs. And then what happens every 12,000 years, we have a micronova. And when the micronova happens, our crust destabilizes during this process, during the changes, and the micronova causes it to let loose. And we're already in a wobble, like here's the planet, here's one of the poles, and we wobble like this, okay?
Yep.
And this is wintertime, and this is summertime, okay?
Yep.
And what happens is we're destabilizing the wobble with the plates coming unglued and coming undone.
Right.
And when that micronova happens, it ejects on us hard enough to, during the wobble, to float us back over. And what happens is the poles have already changed. So now we have north and south poles in a totally different place, 50 degrees opposite, or 180 actually, in different places. And then we have the planet that's flopped over. And the water event is all this water just runs all over the planet at the same time. And there's wind involved, it cuts everything up. It can disturb the entire surface of the earth. And the monuments that they've left were made strong enough to withstand that kind of environmental impacting on it.
That's right. And there's two proofs to that. The first is polygonal masonry, which is this peculiar shapes that are so accurate that you can't get a micron between them.
Correct.
And they are earthquake resistant. And the other proof is that all the pyramids, no matter where they are in the world, are in fact on the right electromagnetic currents to calm down what's the hotspots, because they're all built on these hotspots where the crust is weak. So the pyramids actually have a band-aid effect on the weak points that they built.
So they were electromagnetically charged 14,000 years ago. There was water all around them. There was a river that was totally cut off during the last 6,000 year event, and that stopped the water from going around Giza. Okay. The pyramids themselves are, the Great Pyramid of Giza is a battery, and it had copper on the top. It was limestone all around.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
And it was created to eject a charge, and it allowed the charge from the earth to come out through it. And there's a reason for that. While our poles are changing, the sun is already hitting us with tons of energy because our magnetosphere is lower, okay? It's not protecting us from it. We're in an electromagnetic circuit with our sun to begin with. But now our magnetosphere is down, and it elected, the way they built it was to let the ground charges out. In other words, it was a concentrated ejection of ground charge to stabilize that ground around it and everything around Egypt. And that's what saved it, literally. The ET also uses the charges from it because when they're in atmosphere, they use battery power, not nuclear, okay? And they charge off that, like they charge off of high tension wires now, when they were here. It was easy to get to a wire and you just use that. Man gave it to us. Tesla was trying to build free energy with the Tesla wire, the big towers. And they were going to use those, but the government said nope, because they were already against ET. They didn't want them. They were already paranoid and knew what they were doing because they were doing something wrong. Okay.
Well, Simon, you said there's 300 pyramids in China.
400. Yeah.
Do we know how many are on the entire planet? I had no idea there's that many in just one country.
In Egypt alone, you're looking at 100 plus.
Right.
Right. And you then have Central and South America, China, Indonesia, and in Indonesia, they've just confirmed it's even bigger than the Pyramid of Giza.
You've got there's also Antarctica. Yes. Antarctica has pyramid.
And you've got one in Alaska.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're looking at 1,000 easily.
Easily, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I heard there's several that are larger than the Great Pyramid. I think there's one in Mexico that's larger than the Great Pyramid.
It depends whether it's larger on the base or if it's the height. So
some of them were electrical conductors and some of them weren't. Some of them were absolute clues as to what was happening. And they were leaving messages, like the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar ran out in 2012. Well, in 2012, the governments knew that the sun was going to start heating up and that the electromagnetic current sheet hit us at that time in 2012. Okay. And it was not the end of the world. It was the end of an era. And that's what they weren't telling you the truth about. Okay?
That's right. That's right. It was
they have totally kept this. Right. They have totally kept
from
this.
One zodiac sign to another. Absolutely.
Right. Exactly. And it's a shame. It's a bloody shame. Talking about Göbekli Tepe, there are 18 out there, and they all were covered up when the Earth got flipped. The last flip, it was 2 flips from now. 28,000 years ago, Göbekli Tepe was a civilization on this planet. None of our relatives were there. It was all different. Okay, and
here's a map showing a bunch of them.
Yeah, and you can see where the water is and the mountains and everything. And, when you got dirt, that much sand and stuff, and the planet's flipping and the water's shoving the sand everywhere, it totally buried them. But they were already gone. They lifted off. They were gone. ET took them off. Okay.
Well, Pillar 43 tells us the astronomical alignment that occurred at the time of that disaster. And it's pillar number 43. Now, also, another interesting thing is with Göbekli Tepe is that they've got the man bags, just as they do in Egypt, Sumeria, Central and Southern America. It's one of the symbols that keeps popping up. It's the
Do you know what that is? I'm seriously curious. Do you know what that is?
Well, I reckon that's where he's got all his technical kit to cut the stones and transport them using anti-gravity. But you tell me.
It's an electromagnetic ball that's activated, and it can lift 25,000-pound stone.
Right.
Okay. And they can guide it. They can move it. It just lifts it, and they guide it, and they move it. The recent stupid archaeological people just came out and said, oh, well, we know how they move the stones. And everybody's like, well, how? And they said, well, there was water around Gaza, but they were moving it on ships. What you don't understand is you've got to get it off that ship onto the ground and up a pyramid. And
That's right.
They're not telling you the truth. Those purses have an electromagnetic ball. Every ET pilot has one because we fly with them, because it does more than you understand. It can make connections psychic with other entities, and it helps to guide the ship. ET ships are guided by psychic ability, not electronic. Okay? Because it wouldn't work in that atmosphere.
And what do they use for cutting?
What do they use for cutting? Well, they have lasers, like we have lasers now, and only they're much stronger, they're more advanced, and they can cut anything with a laser. They can even cut it simultaneously. They have a laser that has the ability to do a cutout in laser. Like when you do laser light shows, they have plats in front of the lasers, and it can guide the laser by the laser following a program that goes and it starts drawing it. Okay. Well, these plats in these lasers that they have could draw an entire stone out at the same time and cut it at the same time. That's the kind of advanced technologies that they had. They're light workers. They work with light. They understand it. They've harnessed it. They've tapped it. They can bend light. It's incredible what they're capable of doing.
Yeah,
And,
bending light is something that we know nature can do. It's nice to know that we can do it now as well.
yes. Yeah. We're learning from downed craft. Most of the technology that we've advanced in the last 80, 90 years comes directly from re-engineering craft.
Yeah.
So here's the question from Joe Smith. Do ET craft follow the magnetic field lines of Earth? And
Yes.
And I'm adding, how does this relate to pyramids and ley lines?
Right.
It does and it doesn't. They're all there, and it's just another aspect of how they navigate. Navigation is different from why those objects are there and what they're telling us. These are humanity in whatever iteration you're at, because every 12,000 years this happens, to the next iteration, to pay attention. You need to pay attention. And the people here have, but they haven't told you and every common man on the planet. They've kept it secret because
Right.
they know what it means. They also know that we're 8.4 billion people on this planet. And when this calamity occurs, not everybody's going to survive it. And they have plans
A lot
to
of
only
people.
1% are going to make it, they think. They've gone underground. They have huge seed vaults in Norway and other places, Siberia. There are engineering marvels underground all over this planet, and they think that they're going to survive it. They think that they're Faradayed under there from the kill shot of our grid going down, which is going to happen, and they are so wrong. Our magnetosphere is down so much. We've had problems with only an X8, KP8. That's the biggest one we've had lately, almost a 98.5. Okay, and with our magnetosphere, that should be nothing. With a full operating magnetosphere, we wouldn't even know what was going on. Okay, but our magnetosphere is down 40% now, and it's going to continue going down. And we're going to get to the point where the sun is going to pop one off that's in the 80, KP80 range, and that will kill shot the entire planet's grid. 10 miles deep in the ground. They are not protected. They are not safe. It's going to be a rude awakening to the masses, and they don't care. They think they're going to survive it. And I just, when you're delusional, you think almost anything. Okay. And this is one of the reasons that I'm talking, and I'm sure you see, you intrigue me. I watched your videos. Okay. And you intrigue me because you are right there. You figured this out without even having to think about it.
Well, it's
and one of the
interesting
reasons,
for me.
Yeah, you've caught it. And this is my point exactly. This is what ET wants us all to work on, is to use our equipment and become psychics so that we can figure this all out for ourselves. Because the governments are going to tell you they've been brainwashing everybody for 80 years.
Yes,
Okay?
I've just found out that they've even got their own casting agency. They call it the CAA, and it is literally linked unbelievably to the CIA. And guess who they recruited for Congress?
Yeah. Right.
OAC.
Because this is all connected. What got you interested in megalithic monuments? What prompted you to go start visiting them? And do you think it's all connected to your UFO experiences? I mean, how did this all start for you?
I think when I was small, I had the most wonderful Time Life book on the history of man. It was called The Epic of Man, and it was a huge book, and the print was large, and the pictures were absolutely superb. The photographs were superb, and you could not but fall in love with it. I also had a beautiful book. Well, it wasn't mine, but it was the family's. Another huge book, large print, real coffee table masterpiece on Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh.
Right. And then there were just having the books there, and parents who would be thrilled to see you reading. That for them was perfectly okay. I mean, I've met people whose parents wondered if they were okay because they were in the corner reading. And, why aren't you outside playing? So I had parents who were quite happy to see me read away.
Building a foundation of knowledge. Yeah, that's awesome. You were teaching yourself as well. Yes.
Validating what one already knows from previous existences. I was very aware as a child that this was not my first reincarnation.
Yeah.
I was also incredibly bored.
Well, I want to hear about the past life. I mean, do you have actual recall of a past life?
Nothing I can say publicly.
Okay.
That's okay. I won't talk about my last life at all to anybody. Preston, everyone who knows. That's amazing. Wow. That's amazing.
You got me intrigued. That's funny.
Well, we can all be the wrong side of history sometimes.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Well,
That's
best way to
amazing.
learn.
Yeah.
All right.
Experience.
So what you started actually visiting these sites around the world, though.
Fortunately, yes, because well, for instance, once again, as a child growing up in the States and Canada, one of the things we did was we went on a winter holiday to the Bahamas because we used to live in Toronto, and one of the things we saw in the Bahamas were the Bimini stones.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen them.
Now,
Yes.
the Bimini stones at the time was a taboo subject, and not even the pilots on the private aircraft.
That's true. You could see them from the air. You were not allowed to tell anybody to look.
That's right. Yeah. So they just said very nicely, look out of the window now, you will see them.
Did you get to the Bimini Stones from Miami or Fort Lauderdale?
I honestly can't remember. I was a child.
Well, there were two planes that would go over. The one from Miami was the most frequent one. And you could go over to Bimini and it would land and you'd stay there all day and then come back later in the day, or stay overnight and come back the next day. You know, because you only got one flight in and one flight out. That was it.
We were based in the Bahamas, and we took the plane from the Bahamas to go see the Bimini Stones and come back. But the pilots were still not allowed to speak to us.
That's right. No talking.
That was 40 years ago. I'm now 62. So that was over 40. I was 8 or 9 at the time. So that shows you how things have evolved, whereas now the pilots can hardly wait to tell you all about it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've been diving. I've actually seen them. And my cousin, I had an older cousin who loved to dive. He taught me how to dive. And we went over there and I got to dive and see all that. And we used to go to the Bahamas all the time too. I'm just a little bit older than you. I'm 66.
Right.
And the Bahamas, you know, we used to take the boat and go over for the Goombay summer thing, you know, way back when, and stuff like that. Because I grew up in Miami. That's why.
So were there inscriptions on the stones?
Yes, there
Good.
are.
And has anyone taken any rubbings or
no?
Casting?
Or if they have, it's confiscated. I'm sure they won't let you. You don't dive in there by yourself. There's somebody watching you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's something about them, and when you get down there and you look at them and you go, oh my God. Because it's part of a civilization that was underwater there. When we had the last iteration flop, it put water on top of everything over there. Okay, there's places down in the Keys, you know, off Keys, between the Keys and Cuba, huge. I've been diving out there and seen. Oh my God, you freak out. You know, it's like. Going off of Italy, you know, and off of Alexandria and going into the water and seeing temples and stuff like that.
They have that off India as well.
Yes. And you go, how the heck? And then you realize, oh, I know why now. It's because we're doing this. You know, we're flopping back and forth. And then we have to deal with iterations of ice ages. You know, they think they know that we had one big one, but they don't realize that we're heading for one right now as well. You know. And they don't want to talk about that. Their thing about global warming is so big. They lie about data. They don't show you the truth about that at all.
No, it's a load of rubbish. And what they also forget to tell us is that we are traveling as a solar system at approximately 70,000 miles per hour away from the center of the galaxy.
Right. We're going out on the spiral arm. Correct.
That's right.
Yes.
So we're going further out. And our sun is behaving differently simply because it's not in its normal energy field. It's coming across different currents, different
That
environment.
electromagnetic current sheet is whumping us right now. We're in the center of it, actually. And that's exactly what you're talking about. It's that electromagnetic current sheet that every 12,000 years we spiral into. And it's not just us. It's not just our solar system. It's everything ahead of us and behind us. Okay.
Yeah.
That's going through the same thing. And ET has been very busy with both. Okay. Us and everybody before us and after us. We're not the only ones they're worried about. Okay.
Yeah.
We're egocentric here, and we don't think that, we're trying to put all our values and ideals on them. And it's not true. They're extremely well advanced of us, like billions of years in advance. And we're their children, and they just want us to wise up. And they've been trying to get us to do that, and we're not. We're simply.
I want to pop this question in from Andy. Thanks for the super chat. Because Dolly, you're talking about upcoming Earth disasters, and he's asking what the source is. Is it the book by Chan Thomas, The Adam and Eve? I don't believe you read that book. You've never talked to me about it. I don't know about it. Or
Now, my source is ET.
Yeah.
Period. My dad knew about it also. My dad was in the government. He was connected, and it was explained to me. He handed a book to me when I was 8 years old. It's called ICE. ICE. It is now currently unavailable to anybody on the planet. If they took it out, they got rid of all the copies of it. Yeah. And that book was explained everything. And the scientist who wrote it was in 1938. He came out with this, and they stuffed it down and pulled it away and shut him up. Okay, this is not funny, people. They do not want you to know the truth. That's why disclosure from the government is never going to happen.
That's
Never.
right. It's never going to happen. Never.
No.
And we have to actually take charge. For instance, with 0-point energy, there are 2 patents which are legal, which you should be able to go out, make your own 0-point energy device, get off grid, and live happily ever after. Drive your car around. You can keep it on the ground, and then when nobody's looking, you can do a bit of levitation when you're out in the desert or wherever. I mean, we just have to get on with it ourselves. We don't need to be dependent upon a government that has quite clearly demonstrated with the last scandemic that they do not have our best interests at heart. And
Absolutely.
I know I would live to see the day when we have Western democracies, their own governments are turning on their own people against all the election pledges, against their platforms, against any sense of moral decency. And that that was just such a practice run for an orchestrated genocide. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. I have a theory.
This world. I mean, I just can't even believe it.
I know.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
I have a theory, and it's one that I hope for. Okay, it's a hoped for theory. I hope that the messages that we're sending out and we're talking to people and explaining this to them, that they educate themselves. That I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to do what we've all done, and that start opening books, start reading, start going to reputable scientists who are not owned by the governments of the world. I've given you a couple of them to go to and listen to what they say. It is important that we stop letting the government control our thoughts. They control us with games. They control us with television. They control us with fear mongering and wars and all kinds of things and diseases. And they're controlling us. They've taken our rights away from us all over the planet, and especially in America. I grew up in America that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
There's nothing that we can do that isn't governed by some local principality or law. And you can't do anything without some permission or license or tax or whatever. And we're all slave to this, and we need to get off the slave train. And my theory is that if everybody did this at the same time globally, all of us who are not them, and woke up and then started talking to one another instead of them, and start holding our own meetings and our own talks and our own examples of what truths we've uncovered, we will be 10 times better off, because they will lose control of us at that point.
That's
And
right.
it will be interesting. And the other thing that I hope for, and I'm sorry to say this, and this is why I say, y'all need to be ready for this. Y'all need to understand what's coming, because it could come sooner than today. It could happen tonight. The sun's already heating up. We just had a CME on the sun that's quite frighteningly large, and it's coming into Earth-facing view, and we know that we're going to experience, like we did 2 weeks ago, another rounds. And I've been told by ET that this is it. We're marking time now. It's coming, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. You're going to see more lightning, more storms, horrible storms. You're going to see more cold, and you don't realize it, but it's coming. Cold.
It's already cold here in England. We're
Yes.
at the end of May, and you wouldn't believe it. I mean,
I know.
obviously, we put the heating back on.
Right, and I'll tell you all why it's happened. There is a current in the Atlantic that has cold water in it from the glaciers. Okay, but now they've all melted, and all that fresh water is gone into the Atlantic. And the catalyst for this has already happened. It's already happened. It's the Beaufort Gyre. It's what circulates the cold into the Atlantic and to keep our temperatures from, or the heat. Our Atlantic is mostly warm. You're going to see a terrible, terrible season this season for hurricanes, and they're going to be everywhere, typhoons, everything, because the gyre stopped. The Atlantic is cooling off from all that water, and there's going to be huge convections of cold and hot in the atmospheres that's going to generate all this until it starts getting stable cold. You're going to see everything from England down get colder and colder and colder. It's still snowing in the mountains in the North United States. This is not a joke. Where we live, we're in Georgia in the North Mountains, and our hottest day so far has only been 79 or 80, and it's going down in the 40s at night. It's May, almost the 30th.
That's right.
Wake up. The maps that they show you on the local news stations are lies. They don't give you the correct data. They're skewing it. It's crazy. And I need everybody to start catching up with this and start educating yourself. Look for the real data. It's important.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, go ahead.
I've got a question from chat if you're interested in answering that. Let me see. It's from Don Curtis. Simon, have you visited the crop circles or had any experiences there?
Yes, I have visited the crop circle. And I can honestly say that it is, even without being in a hot air balloon or a small aircraft, they're absolutely wonderful to look at, even on the ground or getting on top of the roof of your mother's car. There is, you automatically know as a human being whether they are made by ET or whether they are made by Doug and Dave from MI6, via the pub, obviously. And it's very easy. First of all, the energy that comes off and the very good feeling you have of well-being. That's the first thing. The second thing is you get off the roof of the car, you go down, you walk into the formation, and you can see very, very clearly whether this has just been trampled down with a board or whether this has been carefully broken at the node. There is a node, it's like a knee joint, whether it's wheat or barley or any other cereal, there's a knee joint, it explodes, and it can be made to fall in different directions. And sometimes the stalks are interwoven.
Right.
It's absolutely beautiful. Now, only ET can do this. Doug and Dave from the pub, age 60 plus, right? Give me a break, please.
Yeah. Some of them are coded with mathematical equations in them, and a couple of them are answers because scientists have some messages.
To the megaliths, to the pyramids, to the ley lines. It's so connected. And what's more, they listen to us, and there's one code, one formula beginning with F. It's not Fibonacci, it's another one, French mathematician. This scientist asked for that formula to be put in a crop circle, and 2 days later it was there. And this is absolutely true. Now, to give you an idea of how perfidious the British government is, the name of the British crop circle expert will come to me. But he was staked out with the British Army, where they had a special enclosure to see if they could catch ET in the act, which other people have filmed, and you see the little white orb over the field, and you see the crop circle appear. This is on film. We also have British Army helicopters chasing these little white lights on film, and they look really stupid.
Yes.
Anyway, they thought they were going to discredit this expert, and what they did was they manufactured a crop circle and woke him up at 4 a.m. saying, "We found a crop circle. We found a crop circle. You must make a public announcement." Which at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's not really, you're not going to get on the good side of any journalist waking him up at that time for a crop circle. If it had been Armageddon, fair enough, but it wasn't. So anyway, they wake all these people up and say, "Oh, we found a crop circle." And when the sun finally comes out, you can tell it's a Doug and Dave monstrosity, and it's got nothing to do with ET. In the meantime, down the road, the real crop circle's been made. Unfortunately, it was filmed by credible observers. But that is how bad it is that they tried to discredit this expert. Now, in my forthcoming podcast, I'm putting crop circles, ley lines, and the magnetosphere, and the monk code in one podcast, which will probably be divided into 3 parts. But the crop circles are intimately linked. You cannot do ley lines without crop circles. You cannot do crop circles without the megalithic structures, because they are based on the same mathematical language. And they have even invented alternative pi, which when you get into the monk code, you will see it's not too difficult. They use the radium from the center of the circle as one of their given bases. And once you know the base, the mathematical constants that they use, deciphering the crop circles isn't too difficult. The thing is, what they also do is they're giving you blueprints to 0-point energy devices. And all you do is you get your computer-aided design software out, you feed in the image of the device in the field, and it will give you a 3D model. Then all you do is work out. Oh, great.
They have AutoCAD in the United States, and you can now download it onto your computer. And most people don't realize that that's mathematically programmable with these things, with these images, that they can put it on their AutoCAD and get an idea of what it's going to do. It's amazing. I want to make a point to you. You realize now with our magnetosphere down and our poles are changing, that our ley lines are no longer stable. They're moving around erratically. You know this.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
But we know that everything is in constant movement anyway.
Right, but now it's astronomically bad.
It will be relative to one another no matter what happens.
Yeah. One of the things that I had to learn the last few years that I was flying is that I had to be trained how to respond to losing a ley line. Okay, because they would go 6 miles over in a half a second, and I would lose cohesion. Okay, and I had to power up at that point and zoom up, otherwise I'd come down and crash. And my reflexes were tight over it. And I had a couple of instances where I didn't know if I was fast enough, and thank God I was. But I've seen other craft go down because of it. That's why they're not here. They can no longer use those ley lines and be safe on them because they're that erratic. Okay, 40% down and our pole's changing. I don't know if you've ever seen a schematic of it. I'm going to send you to a channel after we get off. Okay, it's crazy, and it's really, really getting worse. Exponentially getting worse. That's why people are there are power outages, because sometimes a ley line can be so powerful it'll go through a substation or a bunch of lines or some place like a nuclear plant and go right through it and cause havoc, drop everything, knock it out. Okay, this is serious stuff, and we're only looking at this getting worse now. People all over the country, when a CME comes in, there's satellites going crazy. They lose communications. They lose computer ability. They lose power grids. It's going to get worse, and people need to pay attention to it. Add it up in your head.
So is there a safe place? Because we're getting a question from Tomorrow Kiddo of having a pre-birth memory of being placed in Australia and told it would be safe here. like there are safe places that might be safer than others, right? Would you say people should watch Ben Davidson?
It's not the grid down that you have to worry about. What you have to worry about is what electricity you've got in your abodes that could burn. Okay, because a CME that powerful is going to melt every metal line in your house. It's going to explode transformers in your house. It's going to cause fires. And if you've got gas, oh my God, you need to start trying to live closer to Stone Age ability. Even nails will catch fire and explode. This is how serious this is. And they have kept humanity from protecting itself this way. So if you've got a house that's got a lot of electricity in it, build yourself something away from the house that will not let that CME burn you down. Okay. Dig into the ground a little bit, build a log cabin around it. Don't use nails, use, pegs.
Well, White Dragon is saying if the magnetosphere is down, we would all be dead already.
No, it's only 40%.
40%.
And
So
you
yeah,
are
we will be dead.
Yeah,
Right?
if it was totally down, yeah, you couldn't survive the gamma radiation. But we're already taking heavier loads of gamma and we are being affected. There's more cancer. There's more mental disorders. There's more heart problems. Your heart's an electric device in your body. Can you imagine what a CME does to some people who have iffy things going on with their body fields? It's messy. It affects your autoimmune system. It affects your DNA. It derouses your DNA. It is bad. NASA even proved this with 2 astronauts who are identical twins. One went up in the ISS for over a year, and when he came back, his DNA no longer matched his brother's at all. It was damaged, and he's still trying to come back from that. There's serious things going on around you. Does the government tell you the truth? No. They've got Big Pharma trying to keep you alive, and they'll use anything to do it, and they figured out how to take the human genome out at the same time. It's covert and unbelievably evil. Period.
Well, we've got 5 minutes left in the show. Simon, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to give a shout out to? Here, I'm going to pop up your.
Actually, I want you to give us your station and your call sign where you are. Are you on YouTube?
Yeah, here's
I'm on YouTube. Right, I'm on Rumble. I'm on Patreon, and I'm also on this site I was telling you about earlier, Voice Media in New Zealand, where there is no tracking and no censorship. So you can also find me down there. But when I do a podcast down there, I have to limit it to only 15 minutes because that's the maximum the server will take at the moment. So what you need to do is ask your viewers very nicely to go down and subscribe with Voice Media in New Zealand, and then just drop a line to the managing director, whose name is Michael John, and say, hey, Mike, can we have podcasts a bit longer than 15 minutes? And he'll take care of it.
Okay. Also, do you have a website with an email address?
I haven't got a website. I've got a Facebook page, and you can drop me a line via Messenger, and I will definitely reply. I reply to all my mails within 24 hours, unless I'm in hospital or,
No, your Facebook address is in the show notes, so people can look you up.
Lovely.
And you've written a book?
Not yet, but it's going to come. Many congratulations to Preston on your book again. That's wonderful. I'll definitely get hold of a copy.
That's awesome. Well, there's way more to unpack than this. So can we ask you to come on again soon?
With the greatest of pleasure. Really would enjoy it. I love your company, both of you. It's great. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Well, people in chat, we're very pleased to hear all your stories. So,
good.
So
absolutely.
Yeah,
I have a feeling you're going to get contacted, especially by Facebook.
I learned a lot. I want to dive deeper into your knowledge about megalithic structures and all the places you visited. There was a couple of pictures you sent that I need to pop this one up real quick.
Okay.
Can you tell us anything about this? That is so cool.
Right. Now this, we don't know who did it and what for. What we do know is it's obviously not the same stone as where you find it now. Right. And we don't know why it's up there either, but it's incredibly stable. Now, when you look into the architectural side of things, there's a fantastic expert called Praveen Mohan, who is a specialist on all the ET in India stuff. And you have temple walls and pillars that aren't touching anything but are totally perpendicular.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, and you can put your arm and your hand underneath, and
And this is
it
in
won't
India?
fall on you, it won't crush you, but it remains in place, and they don't know why, don't know how.
Where is it
So
exactly?
that's in India.
India. Okay.
The guy's name is Praveen Mohan, and he's been doing this for about 20 odd years, and he's an utter expert. We've got carvings in Indian temples of ET doing genetic engineering.
Hmm.
And they also have the man bag down in India as well.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, he's very good. Yeah, Pete Penn. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You know the little bracelets that they wear? Some of
Yeah.
them have flowers on them. That's
Yeah.
actually the key to get that that ball inside the bag to
Oh, right.
ignite. Okay. And I don't wear the bracelet, but I have an implant in my hand
Mm.
that I use. I get it to go, and there's a movement that I make. I'll never show it to anybody, and it ignites the ball, and it starts to grow, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets to be about that big, and it's floating, it's levitating itself, and I have an arm that comes out of my chair that magnetically holds it in place over my head, and I use it. I put my consciousness into it with the ship, and we work the craft together inside my mind, in his mind, in it. His eyes become my eyes, his sense of everything, and I'm driving. And he's backing me up with all other things, and he's giving me what I need to know, what's going on. That's just one aspect of that ball. And you'll notice that there's also a rod, okay, that they all have. The Egyptians show up more than anybody. And that's the actual device that you stick to start the nuclear device to start reacting. And it goes in it, and the driver puts it in. It's my job to put it in and flip it up and then pull the rod. The rod is now dangerous, and we destroy it. They make new rods for every time, and then when I turn it off, we bring it down. You put a new rod in and bring it
Well,
down.
Dolly, we're out of time pretty much. So
I know, but it's
thank you
cool.
very much, Simon.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
appreciate you staying up late to.
Well, it's been wonderful. I look forward to us doing it again.
Yeah.
And you and I and Dolly will keep in touch, and we'll have a little chat afterwards.
Awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And stay on with us. Don't hang up yet.
All right. I want to give a quick shout out to all the wonderful people who've donated super chats. Thank you, Namaste, and
very much.
Andy Decker, and me, Mike, and Andy. Thank you so much. And Allison and Dawn, you guys are awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah, you help keep us on the air.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, this has been the Light Gate for Monday, and we have had a wonderful conversation, and we will again, Simon, I promise. We've been coming to you from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. The reason that the there's actually one tower in Louisiana right now because Katrina took down the other one. And so they're sharing a tower. They're building the new one now, but those two radio stations have merged together. It is awesome that you were here. We hope you show up next Monday and come visit us again. We love you all very, very much. We hope you have a wonderful week. And just remember, go learn, go be happy.
Come here. Wait, I want
see
Duchess to say hi.
Okay.
Duchess. Come here, girl. Duchess. Well, she's apparently doesn't want to be. She usually wakes up. All right. Maybe next
She's had a
time.
long day. All right. We love you all. You got one more minute. That's it. See if you can get her.
I can? Duchess! She must be outside.
No, I brought her in. She's probably dead out on her couch bed.
All right.
Okay.
Next time.
It's a crazy dog. Okay. All right. Night, night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Good night, guys.
Bye.